Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237. Come at you with kind of a random review. And this time I'm doing Rob Zombie's Lords of Salem. I picked this up, I think yesterday, because I got this with gift card money because it's cheap, and it was the only one that I didn't own and haven't reviewed. So I figured why not complete the set. Also because I don't remember a damn thing about this movie. I saw it when it first came out, which this film was from 2002. I think at least in like a festival circuits, but it was officially released in spring of 2013. I remember when this came out, it was like late summer of 2013. I red boxed it. That was when I started drinking heavily, and I haven't seen it since, so I didn't remember a thing about this movie. But I vividly remember thinking that this was his most ambitious and most mature film at the time, and to date, it still is. It held up. I gotta give Rob Zombie praise for this. I mean, there still are some things that's just kind of, why'd you do that? Or kind of killed the mood or whatever. But I do have to say, like, I would probably still say 31 is probably still my favorite, even though it's the most Rob Zombie film. I don't know, this is up there. This might actually beat 31. Because it really feels like Rob Zombie kind of put on his big boy pants for this. What I mean by that is, if you've seen all my reviews for his films, or even reviews by anybody, really, of his films, people will complain about the same thing. Oh, it's always in the Deep South, in the 70s, some sort of white trash, psycho hillbilly with his extremely over-the-top, vulgar, nasty dialogue, to the point where it's not even dialogue. I'm gonna fuck your shit down your cunt, you and your pussy dick fuck, I'm gonna motherfucking fuck your mother. That, and sometimes the cameos can be a little over the top with the amount of them. This, it really feels like he set it aside, like he grew up a little bit. This was the first movie he made after his Halloween films. So, Halloween 2, 09. So yeah, first film after his Halloween films. And he really, instead of going for like the devil's rejects, like angry 14-year-old who was told he could do whatever he wanted, and trying really hard to get under your skin with for example, the hotel sequence from Devil's Rejects. I think that's something a lot of people will say, it's so disturbing. I feel like it's trying too hard. Here, he really calculated, tone, atmosphere, really caring about your characters. Like, this is one of his few films, maybe his only film, where I actually cared about the main character. And while on the main character, I would say this is Sherri Moon's best performance. Also, it doesn't feel like Rob Zombie's trying to put himself in these movies. You don't have someone talking about serial killers. Yeah, I mean, she has dreads and tattoos. She works for a hard rock radio station. So there's that, but that's very kind of small in comparison. Basically, the story is, it takes place in Boston, or in the area, Salem. So it's not in the Deep South. You actually have people wearing like winter coats and shit. It's in the city. She works at this. Her name is Heidi. Is it LaRoc? Heidi LaRoc. She works there with Ken Foree and Jeff Daniel Phillips. I think this was the first major role of Jeff Daniel Phillips for a Rob Zombie movie. And yeah, he's the Rob Zombie guy in this. He's got the beard. There's even a part where he kind of gets possessed and has white contacts. So with his hair and beard, it's like, oh, Rob Zombie stage persona. But one day they get this vinyl record in this wooden box with that symbol on it. They say it's from the Lords, so they think it's just this band called the Lords. And they play it, and you get this really eerie, ominous sound that Zombie composed himself. Which, I mean, the guy's known for heavy metal music. He's a musician in general, so he should at least be able to get a score. And it really is a creepy sounding score. It's, it's simple, it's dark and ominous, it's Carpenter-esque. It sounds like a John Carpenter score. And then over the course of a week, we just sort of see her descend into madness. Like, is she going crazy? Are these witches coming after her? Which makes it sound like The Shining. And each sort of segment is like Monday, Tuesday. So it does kind of have a Shining feel to it. It's like if you take The Shining, Suspiria, The Witch, and then have Rob Zombie try, then you'll get this. And like when they play the music over the station, we sort of see it has this effect only on women. Like, it puts them in this trance, and sometimes they feel uncomfortable or they get sick. Very little humor in this. I mean, the only scenes of humor you get would be like in the radio station. Like, they'll be interviewing someone and they have all like the music cues, which I listen to talk shows on the radio. So like when they're talking about like the first person we see them talk to is like this black metal musician. And he talks about like Satan is the goat. So they hit a button, there's a goat sound. Every time they say something, there's like a button for some sort of humorous sound bite. It got a little distracting, but I didn't mind it. This film's taken very seriously, and it is really slow. So that's why I think Zombie really went for a dark, serious, really kind of visceral yet dark and disturbing at the same time. She lives in this apartment building, and apparently apartment 5, which is empty, that's sort of the gateway to hell. At least that's what I took from it. And I wanted to see who's their landlord. Because her landlord are like 3 scream queens. Okay, we have Judy Geeson, Meg Foster, and Patricia Quinn. Of course, Dee Wallace, classic. Patricia Quinn was in Rocky Horror Picture Show. She was one with the Bride of Frankenstein look. And Judy Geeson was in The Executioner, Fear of the Night, Eagle Has Landed. Oh, she was also one of the aristocratic ladies in 31. And this movie relies heavily on atmosphere and tone. There are some jump scares, but the way the jump scares are done is effective. Like the first one is she goes in her kitchen and she turns a light on, but it's, you know, the camera's way back here, like in the living room. So we see her, she turns the light on. There's like this gaunt, you know, rotted witch, naked witch figure standing on the counter in the corner. So when she hits the light, it's like that loud music, but the thing doesn't move, the camera doesn't do anything. So it's one of those things like where the sound accompanies the visual, and it's just like they mix together perfectly. It's not like any other jump scare. It's like, so I credit it for that. And I counted. The first time they say fuck is like 12 minutes in. And then again, it was like 43 minutes in. At least to where I noticed it. You do get a couple classic rock songs, but, you know, it also uses Mozart's Requiem a few times. And yeah, essentially, yeah, she's descending into like this madness. She's a recovering drug addict. So at one point she relapses and she smokes crack. And that's when like the three elderly they're friends, but I guess they're sisters. They're the ones that are like running the coven now. But we do get flashbacks of the actual witches from like the 1600s, led by Meg Foster, who was she was in Jeepers Creepers 3, but there was one from a while ago. God, it's gonna kill me now. It's one that she's really known for. They Live. That's the one, They Live. They take her into room 5, and this is when we find out the three of them are together, and they're the Lords. And the scene when Sherri Moon walks in there, that's when she looks like this. Beautiful shot, like this big grand like hall with a chandelier and a staircase, and she just walks up to it to Requiem by Mozart. It's almost Kubrick-esque. It feels like a Kubrick shot. And that is the biggest compliment I could ever give Rob Zombie. That is the best scene he's ever captured. But there's a lot of stuff. But then, you know, it's Rob Zombie. She gets up there, and it's like this weird looking, deformed, like oversized baby, like a average sized little person, but like a baby with like flapper hands and feet. And it just starts like going like this, and the intestines come out, and she's like doing this weird thing with it. Kind of killed the mood, but the shit leading up to that scene was gorgeous. And yeah, the scenes like with Meg Foster and all of her sisters back in the 1600s were pretty creepy as well. We see them, you know, being burned. All the while, Bruce Davison, who I've seen him in a lot of stuff. He played Lionel Dahmer, Jeffrey Dahmer's dad, in the film Dahmer with Jeremy Renner. He's this writer who's written about witchcraft, and they interview him the same time they played the Lords record. So he's kind of doing this research on everything about it in the Lords, and he finds out she is direct lineage to the name was Hawthorne. Oh, Hawthorne was like the religious, whatever you would call them back then, that sentenced the witches to be burned. She's direct lineage to him. But yeah, you do get some weird imagery like that baby thing. And then like at the very end, like when she's completely out of it, there's going to be a big concert for the Lords. And that's when everything sort of comes to a head. And like we get the really quick, frenetic cuts of like Sherri Moon slow motion riding a goat, grinding against this black metal looking guy, of robed, satanic priests with, for some reason, dildos that they're sitting there going like this with. I guess it's to show masturbation's a sin and they don't care, and that's the best way they can show it. I don't know. The really trippy stuff didn't work for me. The really surreal stuff. The tone and the atmosphere and everything else worked for me very well in this. And from what I've read, I guess this was the first movie he had full creative control. I don't know how true that is, because I know with H2, he had free reign, and that's why H2 is the way it is. But, and also it's a different kind of movie for him. It's about witches. It's not about these psycho killers or, demented people in that sense. I would almost call this Rob Zombie's Suspiria, because Argento, he became known for giallos, like Italian slashers with mystery and other things, but shorthand. And then he became the prime example of that, and then in '77 he just did Suspiria, movie about witches, and it was very different for him. I would say this is Rob Zombie's Suspiria. This might actually be my new favorite Rob Zombie film. And I know there's a lot of people who, I think, from what I've heard, generally people who aren't the biggest Rob Zombie fans like this. And the die-hard Rob Zombie fans don't like this. I don't know what that says, but I even though there were things that kind of made me go, you were so close, you didn't have to do that. Little things that kind of killed the mood or the atmosphere. But, and I don't know when this takes place. First time we see Sherri Moon, she's wearing a Van Halen t-shirt that says Tour of 82. So it feels kind of timeless. I'm not quite sure when it takes place. But it's not the Deep South. It's not overly 70s. It doesn't have that rotten dialogue that he's known for. He actually told a story that was interesting, and he did accomplish the hardest things to get in horror, or to accomplish, which is tone, atmosphere, build up. Even if the end payoff wasn't great, because it's shown through the surrealness of her hallucinations, that when the music's played at the concert, all the women committed mass suicide. Then we hear over the radio the mass suicide as she disappeared. Doesn't really say 100% what happens. But I gotta commend Rob Zombie. I agree with another user on here, Cody Leach, that Zombie has a great classic horror film in him. He just might need help here or there, or stop doing this or that and do more of that or this. So far, this is the closest we have. I still stand by this being his most mature, his most ambitious, and his scariest / creepiest. I mean, I just do. And if I'm saying it's like The Shining, Suspiria, and even The Witch, that's a huge compliment. Until I ruined the mood of the compliment by saying, but it's like that, but with Rob Zombie doing it. But with this, I feel he tried. And I think this was a valiant effort. So even 6 years later, and not remembering a damn thing, I could actually say I enjoyed The Lords of Salem. This might be his best movie. I don't know where he's going next in his career, but, you know, I was glad to see him tone down the Rob Zombie stuff and actually go for something. But anyway, that is Lords of Salem. Thank you for watching.